Yua here, and I'm going to show you today Mastery of the Jade Harvester set dungeon. For gearing this, you really need the standard jade pieces. You don't need to be epic or anything. I don't even have an ancient weapon yet in my main hand slot, but you do need pretty much all of the pieces that go with the set. So you're going to want 5 pieces of the jade and the royal ring in your cube. So that you can have a Quetzalcoatl for your hat piece. So you'll want the other pieces of jade except for the hat, and you'll want the Quetzalcoatl for your head. And then you're also going to really want the haunting girdle, which will release an extra spirit. This allows you to use the poison one. If you don't have that and you want to try the dungeon, then you'd want to use the cold haunt, which gives you 2 spirits, because one of the requirements is to kill enemies that are both haunted and plagued. And so you really need to be able to haunt quickly and efficiently. And then for your main hand weapon, you're going to want a Sacred Harvester, which will allow your soul harvest to stack up to 10 times. And then I also really like to have the Ring of Emptiness, which will increase my damage. And I also like having the Vile Hive, because that will give me Pestilence. That allows my Locust Swarm to have a different rune. In this case, I'm using the Cloud of Insects for defense. Now for the set dungeon, it's not that difficult as far as damage taken or damage given. So if you are missing some of these pieces, the main things you're going to make sure you need to have is you will want to have Pestilence so that your Locust Swarm will jump to lots of monsters, and you want to have 2 haunts. So those are 2 things that are really key, and you can either get them through the runes or through the gearing. The other piece I have is the defensive bracers. Again, that's not key for the dungeon. It might be key getting to the dungeon or playing on a higher torment. The other jewelry pieces don't matter so much. I also use the Bane of the Trapped and the Gizzard and the Bane of the Stricken. Again, this is mostly because it's my build that I play. The main things you have to make sure you can do is kill things fast enough and haunt and swarm things. So in my cube, I have the Wormwood, which is very important. It's what's making that green go out so that it automatically casts Locust Swarm. So I don't actually cast it. I have it on my bar so I can get an extra rune for it. And the Royal Ring. And then the Achilles Cuirass is just about defense. Again, you won't really need that for the dungeon itself. But you do need to have the Wormwood in your cube. So getting to the dungeon, it's located in a place you probably haven't been to for quite some time, which is the very beginning of Act 4. So go ahead and take the waypoint to the Gardens of Hope first tier, and you're going to go backwards to the Vestibule of Light. And there will be like a few monsters in here that you'll need to clear out. Mostly just those random shadow dudes. So it's not too bad. And then the dungeon itself is located all the way down in the corner right here. And it will say you are worthy to enter the set dungeon. And when you click on it, it will tell you the things that you need, which is to harvest 15 enemies simultaneously and to kill 100 enemies that are affected by both Locust Swarm and Haunt. And then in order to master the dungeon, which is what we're going to go through in this video, you will also need to kill all of the monsters within the time limit. So here I'm showing the path that I took to get through the dungeon. It's important to do this as efficiently as possible because you will run out of time. And as you can see, the dungeon is fairly straightforward in its layout. I kind of went up, and when I hit that first circle, I didn't try to clear the first circle. I just went straight to the right and did a loop around and then came back up through the middle. So the dungeon layout will be the same every single time you run it, which helps you get the most efficient path down. And the other thing is the monsters will spawn randomly. So you can't just plan on maybe soul harvesting in one specific area. You'll have to look for big groups to do that. So there's only 2 different types of monsters that spawn in this dungeon. One is these big snakes, which are a little bit annoying because they can disappear on you. and you have to kind of hang out and wait for them to reappear to kill them because you don't want to leave them behind and find out you're missing a monster or two at the end of the dungeon. What's lucky is if they do get hit with the locust swarm, you will kind of see a green ball where they are, so it'll help you know if they are dead or not. The other mobs that spawn are these little tiny snakes. And I found that achieving the objective where things are both haunted and affected by the affected by locust swarm was really easy to get because I had the wormwood and I'm constantly haunting. So I didn't even really have to think about that objective. The one that was slightly more tricky was to get the soul harvest on the groups. And pretty much I learned that what you need to do is soul harvest right away. Normally when you run Jade, you kind of save your soul harvest for killing things. But if the monsters are dying too fast, which they do kind of in the dungeons, you might not get enough in the group. So pretty much I would run straight into the middle and hit soul harvest in order to get the right number and get that objective completed. The other thing that's important to know on the soul harvesting is once you've soul harvested a batch of monsters, you can't re-harvest the same monsters. If you were to hit it again, you would find that your number is much lower because it would only count the monsters kind of, I would say, unique to that particular soul harvest. So if you soul harvested 15 monsters and 4 more grouped around you and then you hit soul harvest again, it would say 4 the next time. So that's something else to be aware of. However, in this dungeon, the monsters with the little tiny snakes group up pretty well for you. So I think it only really took me maybe 4 tries to complete this dungeon, which isn't bad. And as you can see, one of the most tedious parts of this dungeon is hunting down each of the little snakes to kill individually. And one thing I found to be really important when you're setting up this build is to have lots of cooldown reduction. You do have the passive that allows you to have your cooldowns reset when you kill lots of monsters. However, you also want to stack some cooldown on your gear as well so that you can still use the soul harvest and take out one of the snakes quickly and not wait for it. And then have it up again when you hit the next pack of the little tiny snakes. So as far as the skills go, you don't necessarily need ideal skills in every slot. There's a few key skills that you really need for running the dungeon. The first one, of course, is the locust swarm with either the pestilence rune or the offhand that gives you pestilence. And then the haunt skill you need, I'm using the poison haunt for more damage. However, if you don't have the haunting belt, I would use the cold haunt that releases 2 spirits because it will let you haunt things quickly and more efficiently, which is really important for doing this dungeon. The other important skills that you need to have is the spirit walk and soul harvest. The rune for soul harvest, of course, doesn't matter because the Jade set gives you all of the runes, and I'm using Jaunt for my spirit walk. As far as the passives go, you want Creeping Death, and that goes really well with the Jade Harvester set. And the other one that you have to have is Graven Justice, because that reduces the cooldowns based on the amount of enemies that you kill near you or that die near you. And that ensures that you can have your spirit walk and your soul harvest up as much as possible, which is also, of course, key when you run Jade. The other 2 passes I happen to be running are Spirit Vessel, just because I am in hardcore, and also Bad Medicine for defense. However, those 2 are kind of optional for the dungeon. You really only need to make sure you have the 2 on. The other ones you run aren't going to matter as much. And there is Mastery of the Jade Harvester's set dungeon. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and follow me on Twitter so you can see when all of my new videos come out. And I will catch you next time. Thanks for watching.